Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Wellness and Legacy meeting mastermind that we are hosting with the amazing Anette Picard from Concierge Care. We are going to be getting started here in just a moment. And we have the amazing Holly in the group. So we're so glad you can be here live. So let me go ahead and make you a host there, Holly. And we will go ahead and jump in. So I'm going to share my screen. And for those of you that are not familiar with our group and what we represent is we are the Wellness and Legacy group, which is passionate about connecting death care professionals. So when and this is myself, Carolyn Castillo, with the amazing Holly Schladhauer. We're representing Probate Property Angels. Our company specializes in helping families after a loved one has passed away and the family is dealing with managing the estate, going through probate. So we like to work with executors, especially the ones that feel overwhelmed, maybe not local, a lot of moving parts, and we work with the families to make it a smooth and respectful process while you're selling the real estate inside of the estate. So today we are representing the death care industry. So for a lot of people that maybe never heard this term, the death care industry, you're not alone. Most of us, it's not an actual formality of an industry. And me being specializing in probate real estate, it really gave me the opportunity to see the post administration of post death. So after somebody passes away, there's actually an entire business side, there's an entire administration side to once somebody passes away. And so our group started getting together and we started aligning forces of everybody that was in the post death industry. And what we realized is everybody that is encompassed into funeral services or probate administration or life insurance services, you start to realize that probate and the post death, if it's not planned for, and if you're not properly prepared for it, which we all should be, right? Death is 100% guarantee. So why do we not talk about it more? Why do we not plan for it more? So as we began working in that, we realized that all of us are very passionate about helping people plan and helping people understand how to make it a smooth process for your loved ones once you do pass away. And then the interesting thing was, as we started adding in the pre-planning sector of the death care industry, we realized, well, now you've put together these amazing plans. Now your plans are starting to work in action. And that's where we get into the senior space. Now you're aging, now you're getting older, and what are the resources that are available to you so that you can age well, you can have the proper resources that are available to you. And it was quite amazing that we ended up putting together this entire group of professionals. And the goal of the group is that everybody inside of this group can learn how we all work together, okay? So as I'm doing the probate real estate, there's somebody handling the probate law administration. There's somebody that just did the funeral service, so we're all simultaneously working with the same families. And a lot of times we don't even know about it, okay? So I always like to share our vision statement for our group. And what it is creating a seamless connection between the wellness industry, which serves individuals prior to death, and then the legacy industry, which supports individuals and families post-death. What we've recognized is that both sectors often serve the same customers, sometimes simultaneously. So together as a group, we're learning to develop a deeper understanding and collaboration across all these critical stages of service to ultimately unite our industry as a whole. And so we could really know about all the different sectors. So this is what you're watching right now is the mastermind of industry professionals. So we've up to this point successfully broken down all of the pre-planning components of planning for financial planning, estate planning, funeral planning, real estate planning. And now we are working in the senior space. So previously on the last couple of weeks, we did speak with a senior advisor. We spoke with senior real estate options as far as like reverse mortgages. And last week we had a very interesting interview where we spoke about geriatric manager, which is an all-encompassing kind of almost like it's almost like a personal assistant for an elderly person. And today we're actually going to get into the senior support services with Anette Picard that is going to break down for us the skilled and unskilled services that are available to seniors to help them age well, to help them age in their homes where most of them like to be. So without further ado, let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And I would love to bring the beautiful Anette Picard to the stage. Let me spotlight you. There you go, girl. Well, welcome. We're so glad to have you here today, Annette. And would you mind sharing with us what company you represent and a little bit about yourself?
Of course. So I work for a company called Concierge Care. We are all over Florida and we've been doing it since 2013. So I'm local to this area. My parents live here. So it's always been near and dear to my heart to help seniors, especially as your parents age and your grandparents age. You learn a lot along the way and you always think, oh, I know what to do. But once I started in this position, I realized I didn't know anything. I didn't know how to help them, the right way. And now that I know better, I can do better and not only help my family, but help other people's family as well.
Yes, it's something that we all go through, right?
Yeah,
Parents are going to age, relatives are going to age, our friends' parents are going to age, and I think you don't really think about it until you get maybe a little bit older and then you realize, and knowing what to do and having the support is makes all the difference.
absolutely.
Um, so just real quick, so you guys actually service the whole state of Florida?
Yes, yeah, we're not quite down to Miami, but we go all the way to Palm Beach.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we're all the way south to Palm Beach, and then we go Tampa, and Jacksonville is probably like the most north.
Okay. So
Yeah.
tell us what tell us about concierge care. So what services do you guys provide seniors?
Yeah, so it's essentially called private duty care, and it refers to non-medical personalized care services that we provide either in the home or in a facility setting. And it's tailored to each individual. So it's not one size fits all, it's based on what they need. So it's either seniors or it can also be someone recovering from an illness or post surgery. And we help them with activities of daily living.
Okay. So
Yeah.
give us an example for those that have no concept of this, okay?
Yeah.
What would be
So
an example of someone that would need your services?
yes. So usually it's a senior, and maybe for a while they were very independent. They were still driving, they were doing a lot of things on their own, but either something happened, usually it's a hospital stay, a fall, something along those lines that has made them revert a little bit to not being as independent as they were. So essentially, my company matches them after we make a care plan with a caregiver that can help them continue being independent, either taking them to their appointments, allowing them to still stay social with friends, even though maybe they can't drive anymore, helping them make meals at home, making sure that they're bathing. Safety is a big thing too, especially if it is after a fall. A lot of seniors, they go back home and they think, oh, I'm going to live my life like I used to. And it's just not the same anymore. But sometimes you need someone there to encourage you, to make sure you're doing what you're supposed to do, continuing exercising, things like that, that as you get older, you kind of forget this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Uh-huh.
The way I describe it to families is is a lot of people, they come here, retire, so their daughter and son isn't here. So we kind of take that role. Our caregiver will go out and be that person for them, be able to continue assisting them while they feel that they're still independent. Their kids aren't there micromanaging them. So it is a little bit different than, the daughter-son relationship, but it still helps them feel like they have this sense of I'm still home, I'm still doing, my life isn't changed too much. So it keeps them kind of mentally aware too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it could be for temporary situations, right? Like if
Yeah.
somebody had a fall and maybe they just need help, getting up and down until their full recovery. Do you find that your work with families just on a temporary basis?
Yeah, a lot of ours, they come on and they're maybe PRN. So as needed, we'll take them just when they need to go to appointments, but it can also go up levels. Typically, they start with that. Maybe someone comes out once a week. And then as you age, you're not going to really get better. There's going to be other situations that arise. Unfortunately, it's just a part of life. So typically, we do see hours increase and you get attached to the caregiver. Like I said, it's almost like a family member. You see that person weekly, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I like her. I want to keep spending time with her. I trust her. So people do go up in hours. So we offer as little as 1 hour, like a bath visit, as little as just transportation cases, all the way to 24/7 care.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, some people, it just happens where you start to decline after something happens, especially because it's hard for seniors to accept that their life is changing. So sometimes they can be a bit stubborn, unfortunately, as we all can, even at my age. So sometimes you'll see a bit of a decline, and that's when we see the increase in hours.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How do you think the initial start with you guys? Like you said, maybe it's off of first like a hospital stay or a circumstance that happens. Is it typically the individual themselves, the senior, hiring your service, or is it the family or?
So it really just depends. If it is post-hospital stay, then typically it's the case manager that's referring them to us, just because they know they require a bit more care than the family can provide or that the senior can provide themselves. It can also be a family member that's looked up the information and they already know what private duty or non-skilled home health is, and the family member, daughter or son, will reach out to us. It's rarely the senior. In some cases, it may be, but to be honest, it's typically the family member or primary care physician can do it. If they do live in a facility, it may be the director of nursing, it may be the executive director, whoever determines, oh, this person is not acting like they used to, or this person just needs a little bit more help, that would be the person referring.
Okay. And so you talked about private duty. Can
Mhm.
you explain that for people that don't know? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So they call it private duty care because typically private duty is privately paid. So with this kind of care, it is not covered by Medicare or any type of insurance because it is considered non-skilled. So we aren't doing administering any medication. It's not a nurse that's going out there and helping you. It's typically an HHA, which is a home health aide, or a CNA, a certified nursing assistant, or even a personal care aide. So these people are not nurses. They are just being there as an assistant to you to help you continue your life. But anything medical would fall under, Medicare and insurance. So that's the difference between the two.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, when we spoke last week, we actually interviewed Christine Yancey from I always get this word, geriatric.
Oh, geriatric, yeah.
Geriatric, thank you, Annette. Geriatric manager, and they provide more of like looking over their whole life, like as far as like paying bills and like keeping up with their appointments and stuff like that. So is there kind of because it sounds like having a home health aide that is there for you to help you bathe and help you, is there a line of things that you guys don't do that you don't get involved in?
Yeah, anything like medically, these people don't have a license for that. So anything from giving them medical advice, from being able to, especially maybe they are needing something administered, not even just a medication. It could be they put estrogen shots or they're getting the bone density shots, things like that. We cannot administer any of that. And this comes up a lot for people with hospice. They need medication for pain management. We can't do that. The home health aides can change depends. They can bathe them. They can do anything that a daughter or son would feel comfortable doing, but it ends at when it starts being a medical necessity.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
And I have seen like the health aides like taking them shopping, like
Yes.
or you see them at the mall, like
Yeah.
so I could see how you do get a relationship with these people. How does that look like actually like a day in a life of a CNA that's actually with the family?
Yeah, so this goes to even when we first start. The way we set up a caregiver, I always say you're like, kind of like dating at first. We want to make sure it's a good fit for them because they're going to be spending a lot of time with this person. And if, God forbid something does happen and they need to increase, we want to make sure it's someone that they like being around, that they feel like this is a good conversation because they do end up being a friend, family member, somebody that's there during appointments that they may not give you good news, someone that's there when you're not feeling your best. So the relationship goes on sometimes for years with these seniors, and they do get really attached. So when the end of life comes, it's actually really emotional for not only our office of the people that have, assisted with scheduling and getting close to the family member, but also the aide that's there with them. It's just
Mm,
really sad because they're losing almost a family member at the end of the day. But that's what we want. We want somebody that they feel so comfortable with that they've allowed this person into their home, into their life. A lot of those things are really personal. So we want to make sure it's the best fit that they feel like, okay, I can age with this person by my side.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
does that process look when you first set up a family with a CNA? I mean, is there like a speed dating or do they get
Yeah. So we do a lot of meet and greets. So depending on the hours that they tell us they need, we know what caregivers usually like those hours. And then we can do meet and greets if they feel that way. Typically we tell them, do a couple different people in the beginning for the first few shifts. And then we make a favorites list. So they may not always have that same person, but they'll have someone from that favorites list. So if one person's sick, there's always an additional person that's available. That person is never without care. And that's what we encourage them to do. This is a service that we want people to feel like I'm getting my money's worth, first of all, because it is an out of pocket expense, but also they feel like, this person is someone that I would choose. Even if I wasn't paying them, I would want this person to be in my life. And that's really important to us because we do want it to be long term so that they feel safe and they're continuing to do everything that they need to do.
hmm so could potentially someone that, starts with somebody, just helping them with like, I know we kind of talked about this off the air where, you really would love to see people get connected with you before the crisis, because people typically don't think about getting assistance until they can no longer, bathe themselves or get, physical things. What are ways that you can get involved with a senior prior to them having any like major issues that occurs?
Yeah. So I mean, right now in my role personally, I go to a lot of like community centers, senior community centers, just to meet the seniors and kind of let them know this is an option for you. Because I think even before me and you met, you may not have even heard of private duty. It's
Mm-mm.
very new to a lot of people. It's like one of those things that just people aren't aware of. So it's really nice for me to just let them know this is an option for you. You may not need it right now, but if you feel that there's a time where you do, call before you get to that point. Like we said off air, unfortunately, people wait till like post hospital. That's where we get the most. And it's usually people that they want to start the next day, which I can really say my team at my Ponte Vedra office goes above and beyond. They find a caregiver, they match that person, they usually do the assessment that day, and then they get somebody out there, and that's amazing. But it would be so good to have someone start a bit earlier and then their decline wouldn't be that quick. You have someone that's watching out for you, that's making sure that your home is safe from falls. You would not believe how many people have like a rug that does not have a non-slip, just little things that you don't think about in your day to day. But a caregiver is trained to notice those things, to make sure your home is safe. They go there and the person doesn't even have, shower safety. They're getting in and kind of putting themselves over the tub, and it's just crazy what they see. And sometimes kids aren't they don't see it the same way. They don't see their parents aging that way. They think, oh, my mom's still very independent. And then all of a sudden she falls and it goes from 0 to 100 so quickly. So it'd be
Mm.
nice for people just to be aware, because not only do we do private duty, but I'm an advocate for them. I want to give them the education of home safety. I want them to try to prevent as much of the falls and, just the dangers of the day to day, the driving. A lot of them shouldn't be driving probably anymore. And that's okay. I know they want to maintain that independence, but those are things caregivers see and they can relay it back to the family. So
Yeah.
it'd be nice if we could get in there a bit earlier, even if it's just once a week or a bath visit or a transportation, just to see. And then they can determine, okay, let's make your house safer. Let's do this. Let's make sure you're actually eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And just those little things that sometimes go unnoticed until it's too late.
Hmm. What are the red flags for seniors in driving?
Oh my gosh. I mean, you probably noticed. I mean, we live in Florida, so there's a lot of people that probably should not be driving. I think a lot of them, they don't even, they go to these appointments and they get their eyeglasses and they leave their glasses at home. Or they think that, that they're still a good driver and they're cutting off people and accidents happen. And then all of a sudden they get their license taken away,
Mm.
or they're driving tired. A lot of them, don't have the energy that they used to. But honestly, and they don't even always tell their kids that they're still driving and that they're doing this or that. Sometimes they're just pretending like they're still at home and they're not.
Mm.
And some kids just don't even realize until they're like, what the heck, you got in a car accident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my father-in-law is in his 80s and they drive, they go states, road
Oh,
trip,
wow.
you know.
Yeah, no, I think,
So,
some people are still really good at it and they really enjoy it. And that's something you don't want to take away too early because that is their independence.
mhm.
So it's always nice to just at least maybe have somebody there to drive them those long distances. Obviously, no driving at night. I mean, even for me, I'm almost 30 and I feel like, oh my God, I don't even want to drive at night. So I can't imagine in your 70s and 80s driving at night. Just little things like that that they could just make a difference with.
Yeah. So what if you're a daughter, a son, looking at your aging parents, what are maybe some things that are red flags for you as looking after them that says to yourself, maybe I should look into getting somebody to help mom?
Yeah, I think weight loss sometimes, especially if a senior loses a spouse and all of a sudden they're home alone and they're making food for one. And then all of a sudden they're really not making those meals. They're not that hungry. That's a red flag, major weight loss. Then they're frail, and that's when falls happen. A messy home, them not being able to clean after themselves anymore. That's a big deal. Um, Having accidents. Some people, they don't realize that they should probably go to the doctor for that. They don't need to be on depends necessarily, but they do need to make a change because they're not being able to have, hold it like they used to. And then bathing, I think that's a big thing too. They get so exhausted when they take a shower that they're starting to not bathe, and we see that a lot. And then feeling lonely. I think that's a big one too, especially if they don't have a spouse anymore and they used to. All of a sudden, they're spending day in and day out alone. Seniors don't have the network that they used to, especially if they come here to retire. They don't have the friendships that they had. And it can be really lonely, especially when you're retired. You're sitting at home all day. Some of them don't have pets because they can't take care of themselves. They don't need a pet too. So I think it can get lonely. And that's something too, people don't think about that. Just companionship is a big deal, and that keeps them feeling good, happy, because depression, especially for seniors, it's a big deal. So little things like that, mood changes, not being able to take care of themselves like they used to, those are big red flags to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What age, I mean, based on from what you've seen, like what age do you kind of see these things start to
I
that?
would say mid 70s is usually about the age where you start seeing it. Maybe not to that level, but obviously cognitive decline is really big. A lot
Mm.
of people, they could even be in their 60s and they have cognitive decline. And in those cases, you want to make sure, just because of safety, you hear people leaving their ovens on, little things like that, that's really avoidable. And sometimes they kind of play it off like there's nothing wrong, and kids don't always want to accept it about their parents either, that there may be a cognitive decline. So that's a big deal. And I think it's hard to accept when your parents get older. So a lot of people, especially if they don't see their parents that often, they don't really notice. And then later on, you see them and you're like, oh my gosh, my mom is aged and she's not who she used to be, which is
Mhm.
really sad. And I think it's not one of those things you don't have to embarrass them. You don't have to make them feel like they're getting older. It's kind of you taking the wheel and saying, mom, I think you just need someone to hang out with you one day a week. And they can paint it a completely different picture than making it seem like someone's there to be their babysitter or, take over what they're supposed to be doing. It's just someone to assist you with what you need to do.
Mm-hmm. So now unskilled care, because that's what we've been talking about. So
Yeah,
all of this is basically unskilled because you're not giving any type of medication, you're not giving any injections, or can you help them take their prescription
of
medication,
course.
pills and stuff like that? Okay.
Yeah, we get to help them take that. We actually help them set up their medication boxes. That's something that's fine and we can do it. As long as we're not physically forcing them to take the pill, we can help them set up, just like I would for my mom. If she needs to take certain medications throughout the day, I would be able to set up her medication box. But yeah, that all falls under non-skilled. And the skilled side is when they are able to start letting people take their medications. They assist with that. They're able to go out and help them with PT, OT, things that usually the doctor prescribes for them.
Wait a minute, you're talking the lingo. PTOT, what does
Oh,
that
I'm so
mean?
sorry. Physical therapy is PT,
Okay.
and then occupational therapy is OT.
Okay. So that is with skilled care.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Because I want to go into the skilled care, but let's keep for the unskilled care. So what like some of these things that you talked about, being home alone, weight loss, maybe not keeping up with the house. Now, is the CNA cleaning their home or
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah. So
are
they
they?
do
Okay.
all activities of daily living. So
Okay.
they would be able to clean their home, just light housekeeping. They're not, getting down and washing the baseboards, but they can definitely keep it up and tidy it up. They help them with organization to make sure that what they do need is lower in the cabinets or, easily accessible to that senior to make it a bit safer for them. And then they can go in there and also meal prep. So just prepare some meals so the days they aren't there, that senior is still making sure they're eating their breakfast, lunch, and dinner, even if they don't have the energy to cook it themselves.
Mhm.
They can also, take them outside, do walks, things like that. So anything that senior would typically do in their day to day, that's what that CNA is helping with.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So what would you say, somebody that, just doesn't have like an illness or anything, but just kind of like falls in that category of, like you said, just not keeping up, not necessarily something's wrong with them. What type of support do they need? Like how many hours? Is this daily, every other day, or?
Yeah. So I would say if someone kind of fell in that category, but doesn't feel like they fully need help to that extent yet, we could always start with once a week and do 4 hours. And I always tell a senior, you can find something for them to do within that 4 hours. They think like, oh, that sounds like a lot of time, but it goes by really fast. So just having them there, they come, they help you organize. If you want to go out and go to the grocery store or the mall that day, that's what they can do. And just preparing those meals for them to have, that makes such a difference in their life, even if it's just one day a week. I think that really does help. And that way they can get close to that person and get used to them being around without having to go full force into it yet.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then who determines like what they're gonna do during that 4 hours? Like,
The senior
okay.
would, if the senior doesn't feel like they can tell them, then I usually tell the kids, they know their parents. So if the kids are the ones setting it up, I usually say, make a list of what's important to your mom or dad and go ahead and put that there so that that person knows there's no confusion about what they should be doing because we want them to be able to get their money's worth of the 4 hours. We don't want the caregiver to get there and not know what to do and they're just sitting there chatting for the
Right.
4 hours. Yeah. So it's really determined by either the children, if the senior feels comfortable, if they do get discharged from the hospital and there's things outlined in their discharge paperwork, then that's something we take into account as well. And that's
Mhm.
all done during the assessment. So when that referral is reached out to, whether it's the kids or the doctor or whatever the case may be, that's when we determine, okay, we've assessed the senior. These are really the needs that we think. Tell us what you want, and then we'll meet in the middle.
Okay. And now
Yeah.
when it comes down to like daily living, so let's say that, they need help, eating and they need help bathing, just like, daily living, beyond
Yeah.
just would be nice to go out to the grocery store. How many hours are we talking to really, because we've had this discussion on previous talks about, most seniors would say they want to age at home. You know,
Yeah.
they, in my business, y'all hear people, oh, are you thinking about selling your house? They're like, they're gonna bury me in the backyard.
Yes.
Like they want to live in their house. They don't want to go to assisted living. They don't want to do
Yeah.
that. But if they choose not to do that and they don't have family members that are, like we also have talked about that on this channel is like about, just the times have changed, right? It used to be that generationally we were taking care of each other, so mom would live in the house and then, we would be taking care and then grandkids would be there. So it'd be a lot of activity around. But nowadays, people are moving cross country. People don't stay in the same cities and towns anymore. Husbands and wives are both working. It's not the, generation where it's just one person working in the house. Everybody's working. We're all like crazy busy with our schedules. So now we find that the older population is now being left alone. You know,
Yeah.
they're not in a multi-generational home. So if you don't have help from companies like yourself, then they have to go to assisted living. It's not even an
Right.
option, really,
Yeah.
you know? So what does that like full-time care look like for somebody that really needs like looking after every single day?
Yeah, so typically it's usually 12 hours. So we would have somebody come there right when they wake up in the morning, help them get out of bed, help them get ready for the day, whether they need a shower or bath that day, doing their hair, making sure that they're eating a good breakfast, going outside walking with them, preparing the lunch, and then doing the dinner and tucking them into bed and getting them ready for bed. So it's an all day
It
thing.
sounds so like cute.
I know. Yeah. And honestly, I think like I said, seniors usually start a smaller amount of hours and then increase. And then they realize, I don't want somebody just here in the morning. I actually need help before bed too. And it just eliminates being able to fall, getting out of the shower on your own. And like you said, a lot of people, they move cross country. So they could get hurt and not tell anybody. They could fall and just don't even tell their family member, and then go to bed and they could have a concussion. It could be really serious, just little things like that that I don't think people really think of, especially, kids of that parent. They're not thinking, oh, my mom can put herself to bed. She's been doing it forever. But there's so many more accidents that can happen as you get older. Your bones are not as strong as they used to be. You don't have the balance that you used to have.
An
So it
accident
typically is, yeah,
accident is an accident. Like nobody
right.
plans for an accident.
Exactly. Yeah. And you think, your mom could be the most flexible, in good health, independent person, and all it takes is one little trip and fall, and her whole life is different from then on. So I would say usually it's about 12 hours. You see that just because while they're sleeping, they don't really need anybody. There are cases where, like I said, we do 24/7 care because a lot of seniors, they'll get up, especially if they have like a cognitive issue. They could be walking around, they're staying up at night because they have that cognitive issue. We call it sundowning, and
Okay.
then that's the time, yeah, that's the time where they're walking around, going to the bathroom in the dark. And then they fall or get hurt, or that sleep too is just not healthy when you're sleeping during the day and then at night you're up. So little things like that end up being 24/7 care. So having that caregiver there day in and day out. And they usually switch off. It'll be 12 hours, somebody during the day, and then 12 hours, somebody at night.
Okay. Um,
Yeah.
so tell me, give me an idea of cost because and I think that we've talked about this amongst ourselves, but unskilled care is not covered by insurance, right?
Right. Yeah. What does cover it, which we've talked on this before and in our meeting, is long-term care policies. I think people are really more aware of long-term care policies now. And so my company specializes in starting that because there's typically an elimination period. So you start it once you need it, but you have to pay for, let's say, 30 days of care out of pocket. And then that policy kicks in and they start paying for the care.
Okay.
Also, VA benefits. So a lot of people may have a spouse that was in the service, and those VA benefits transfer over to the wife or husband, or if they're both still living, they can use their VA benefits for, it's called aid in attendance. So they pay for a certain amount of hours per week. It just depends. It's based on what the doctor thinks they're capable of, but those two do cover it. Otherwise, it is an out-of-pocket cost. It typically starts if you're doing 6 hours or more, it's about $30 an hour. So it does add up. And it's considered probably still right now a luxury to be able to have it. A lot of people, at least in my generation, are now planning ahead because, like you said, everyone wants to age in place. You want to be able to stay home, especially if you've made your house safe for you to live in as you age. I think you don't want to go to an assisted living. You want someone that's there for you and allows you to be independent and feel like your life is still normal. So a lot of people now are planning for that, but unfortunately most of the seniors that call me, or the kids that call me, they do not have long-term care policies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the long term, if you had the long-term care policy, is it because you said you pay for 30 days and then it kicks in, but is there a doctor's order or something that to
No,
enact that?
no, for that, you don't have to have a doctor's order or anything. You just have to have it set up. Everyone signs up for a different kind of plan. I can't say I'm a specialist in those personally. I don't know, but I know that every plan has a different amount of hours that they'll pay for. And typically it's pretty good. Even the lower amount that I've seen, they still cover a lot of time. I think it's like I've seen ones that are 4 hours daily, 6 hours daily, which is great. I mean, that's really, if you have someone coming every day, that's all you need. If you're not at the place where you need more, but you can always pay the other costs. So if your long-term care policy is covering this much, at least you're only paying a little bit more out of pocket. So it's not too hard on you.
Hmm.
But yeah, luckily, I think now there's more education out there on long-term care policies. I know that you do have to sign up a bit younger. And so when people do call me, they're like, can I sign up for one? And I'm like, I don't know, because I know, at least for the long-term care policy, the doctor usually go through a physical to say, that you're not, just like with insurance, you're not like a high risk person and you're not going to use the benefits tomorrow. So the younger you sign up, the better, which is something I learned by this role.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, well, we had Peachy from Peachy Insurance, and she
oh
talked
yeah.
about long-term care. So she said that you should get the policy when you're in your 40s.
I've heard that, yeah, which is crazy because in your 40s, you're like, oh, I'm healthy. I don't
You're
need this.
thinking about
Yeah. But that's the whole
it.
point is, yeah, at least you won't have to pay as much if you sign up a bit younger. At least that's what they
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, and that's the hard part though, is that insurance is not cheap, you know?
Right.
And so
Yeah.
when you're feeling at your best, at your prime, and you're healthy and well,
You don't
you're
want to pay that
thinking
expense.
right about it.
Yeah.
That's the caveat, is that then, when you then get into your 60s, you want to get long-term care, it's like,
It's too late. Yeah.
like triple the cost. So,
Right.
okay, so let's pretend that we don't have insurance, which is most people, right? They get into where they don't have long-term care. Part of all of this, as we've been speaking with like the financial advisors and the estate planning attorneys, they really like collaborating like an actual plan for your life. Like, what is it that you want? So somebody could make the decision like, I want to die in my home. I want to, stay in my home. In order for me to do that, maybe I need to have the goal of paying off my house, right? So I have no mortgage that is due, right? A lot of people do that. They pay off their houses. A lot of times when we're selling houses for families that have passed away, there's no mortgage. It's paid off free and clear, right? So there'd
Yeah.
be no expense, for them to live there besides, taxes, insurance, utilities. And then if you were then, you would have to plan in something like yourself to be able, because the reality is that as you get old, like you do need help. Like
Yeah.
that's just the bottom line. Like you're gonna need assistance. And if you want to be independent, which I think more and more seniors or people that are aging now, they're realizing that their kids have like super intense schedules. Like again, it's not like the good old America where we're taking care of, grandma and grandpa. So people are not wanting to be a burden to their families, they're wanting to pre-plan, they're wanting to make these things. um I'm curious how like financial advisors would add you into their plan, because
Yeah.
it's a way that also, like you said, you prefer to work with families more in, just health and well-being, and then gradually progress as needed instead of just going in straight crisis mode. You need someone to bathe you now, you need, and now it's a financial burden, it's all the burdens, right? So what would be, if you're saying, because you said 6 hours plus is about $30 an hour. So
Right.
if you have somebody 12 hours with the VIP, like I want somebody to do that for me. Can someone come and dress me and bathe
Tuck
me?
you in. Yeah.
Tuck me in.
Don't we all?
So awesome. What would we be looking at as far as like, that full-time care to be able to die in your home, age in your home, with the indignity, right? And it's just so neat because by us, like if everybody's out working so hard and we're not taking care of our elderly, then we should be paying, right? Or we should
Right.
be, contributing to helping them, right? As
Yeah.
they took care of us. Isn't that kind of like the life cycle? So
Absolutely.
we
Yeah.
were babies. They provided for us for 20 years, probably at least, and then now when they get to that, age of in their 70s, 80s, now you're there to support them. What are we looking at cost wise for like full-time care?
Yeah, so it definitely gets pricey, especially if they're doing 7 days a week, 12 hours. I mean, it's about $2,500 probably weekly. What we do see, kind of tying back to what you said, is kids typically split that cost. So if you have two or three kids, they're splitting that cost for their parents or helping them budget to be able to afford that care, see where they can help them with if their house isn't paid out. Maybe they're paying the mortgage for their parents or they're helping with groceries, just little things like that to offset the cost if they're not able to be there. We also see sometimes maybe they get 3 days a week or 4 days a week, and then the kids all take turns doing the other days. If they don't have one of those policies that pays for it and they're doing it all out of pocket, it does get expensive. But typically, this is towards the end of your life. So we do have people that can be on service for years, but unfortunately at this time, like I said, people come in crisis. So it's typically once they've already suffered an injury or something serious where they're reaching out to get this care. So sometimes it's only a few months that they're paying for, which could be avoided. But yeah, it does get expensive. It could be like 2,500 a week.
So I did the math. If you were doing the 12 hours, you'd be looking at about 120,000 annually
Yeah.
for the care,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
but how does that stand up against assisted livings? Because is
Yeah,
it,
typically, I mean, especially in our area, it's more expensive to live in an assisted living. Usually the apartments go for about 8,000 a month, and that's like a studio. You do get either one or two meals, it depends on the assisted living included. And obviously like electricity and things like that are included too. So it's really dependent on what the senior wants. If they need that community, because that's one benefit of an assisted living is you do have people that are going through the same thing as you. You
yeah.
don't need that. Yeah, you don't need somebody for companionship. You really have activity directors there that are doing arts and crafts with you guys. They're really making sure that you are embedded into the community because they want you to stay. But on the other side of the coin, a lot of people want to be in their own bed, in their own house. It's like after you come back from a vacation and you're like, I just want to be in my own bed, in the comfort of my own house where there's no other noises, it's quiet, and you can enjoy yourself without feeling like, oh gosh, tomorrow I have to see these people again. I have to be with people every single day. It just depends who you are. I
Like
would
being on a
say,
cruise ship.
yeah, yes. Yeah, and some people are so social and they love that and that's great for them and perfect for them, but people that aren't so social, that's a lot. That's a lot of especially when you haven't done that your whole life and then all of a sudden, not only are you aging, but you've been forced to move into this place where you're not even that happy. That really kind of makes people start to slow down and you see the downhill kind of because they're just not used to it. It's hard to adapt if it's not something you wanted.
Mhm.
And that's what we see a lot is a lot of kids are like, well, they're comparing the cost and they're like, this is a little bit more to live in an assisted living, but I think this is better for them. But ultimately, that should be something that people plan ahead for. Does your mom want to live there? Does she have the finances to stay home? Things like that. And it really just depends on the person. I personally would not want to be in an assisted living. I would rather, be at home and have somebody that I've hired, but I know that person's coming every day. And I know I can make my little list and say, hey, today, can you do this for me? Can you make me this meal? This is what I want to have. Can you clean the bathroom? Just little things like that. And it's personalized to you. Whereas in assisted living, everyone has to do the same thing. You're getting all the same services as everybody else. And that just may not work for you. But I would
Yeah.
say the cost is similar, definitely.
Yeah. Well, also with the assisted living, you're getting like the group exposure, but you're not getting just like that
One
one-on,
on one. Yeah.
right? Because that's what I've noticed from most of the assisted livings. Like, yes, they have people to check in on you and, bring you your meals and, the activities that are happening all around. But when you're hiring, a skilled or unskilled care, like what we're talking about, it's really like having that one-on-one like you said, companionship,
Yeah.
somebody that is assisting you, which is like 10x the attention that you would
Yeah.
be getting at an assisted living.
Yeah, and at assisted living, they can only do so much. So if you do start to decline, they move you into a memory care. You're no longer in, a place where you can easily leave and come in and out of your apartment. So you move into memory care. And with those, a lot of people, they would rather be at that place in their own home. They don't want to be around a bunch of people that are maybe a little bit more advanced than them cognitively. It's hard to be in a room like that and feel like, oh, I'm a little bit more independent than them. Why am I in the same place? So
Hmm.
those are things, and sometimes it's not up to them. At a lot of assisted livings, if they feel like you're a flight risk or that you can no longer get the care that you need while being in there, they do move you over because there is a higher level of care in there. And that's something people don't really consider when they are putting their parents in there is the fact that there could be more of a decline because they're not around people that are exactly on their level.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So what about like, dementia and, Alzheimer's and stuff like that? If that does happen to somebody that you're caring for, are they really able to stay at home um throughout their
Adams.
that
Yeah.
disease or
It really
even
depends. It affects everyone so differently. There are some people that can actually stay a bit independent. Obviously, they can no longer drive or, sometimes use the kitchen, but there are ways to make the home safer so that there isn't risks of them, hurting themselves or using something that they shouldn't if they're no longer able to. But some of them can stay home and they're okay, especially if they have someone there checking on them every day, coming in the morning, making sure that they're eating, remembering to take their medication. Because that's one of the biggest things when you have that cognitive decline. You don't remember if you took your blood pressure medicine that day. And one thing, too, that we discuss a lot with families is now we're at a day and age where there's so much electronic stuff that you can use. Like even the Amazon Alexa can literally say, take your medicine at this time. And they can set a reminder like, hey, remind me I already took my medicine. Or that's when the med boxes come in. So the medication boxes, that say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Now they have ones at certain times. So if you open it up, you're like, oh, I took my 1 o'clock already. So we are thankfully, and that's such a blessing, is that there are a lot of ways for seniors to still stay independent through electronics, through having the help they need. Even with their kids, now they can text, FaceTime. They have that companionship, they have that social part. So they can stay home. It's really dependent on what the family feels, how far along the senior is in the disease, and then how comfortable they feel at home by themselves too.
I want to throw a topic out there that you triggered me when you said the Alexa. Okay. So I don't know if you've read or you've been seeing the trends about it, about basically robots being
Mm,
companions. Um,
yeah,
and it's actually a big thing they've talked about for seniors, because of everything that we're talking about, right? Um,
yeah.
has your company or have you, heard anything or anything about what that looks like for the future?
Yeah, so I've probably seen the same articles as you. I've seen it. I think, especially maybe when we are older, maybe we'd be more open to it. But the seniors that are here right now would be like, heck no. They definitely wouldn't want it, at least the ones I've been exposed to. But I think it depends. Once that becomes more normal and you don't feel like, do you remember that movie Smart House?
Yes.
Yeah, as long as you don't feel like the robot's going to come to life and have this like personality and stuff, I feel like it should be fine. I mean, I think that would be such an amazing
As
service. That would
long as
be
that doesn't
great.
happen, we should be fine.
Right. As long as they don't take over the world, I think it's okay.
Well, I'm really interested in all that because obviously everyone right now is just, hearing about
Yeah.
AI, and I've heard people as bold to say is that within 5 years, that everyone will have a household robot,
Mm,
and that it will be coming. Like they're already in the marketplace now. Technically, you could buy a household robot, but it's not like, like where everybody for Christmas is getting,
yeah.
see, I think of a nice robot. Like I think about the Jetsons,
Yes.
and I think about
That's funny.
I think about what was her name, the maid? Was it Betty?
Oh, I don't remember. It's
I
been
think it
so
was
long
Rose. I
since
think it
I've
was
seen it.
Rosie. Was it Rosie?
Rosie?
Rosie.
It was
That
Rosie.
sounds,
I love that
I
show.
know. I was just talking about that show. That's funny. I was like, oh, when will we be flying in cars?
Well, I was just watching that cartoon with my daughter because she obviously has never known about the Jetsons, and it was when I went back and watched it, I'm like, man, they were ahead of their time.
Yeah.
That cartoon came out in the 60s, and
Yeah.
just the vision that they had, and even some of the things that were in the cartoon, we are doing
We're
now, like the
happening now. Yeah.
FaceTime, like just the different things that was probably like, oh, that's so weird. That's so futuristic,
Right. They were like,
Um,
oh, that'll never happen. And now we're living it pretty much. Yeah.
yeah,
It'll be interesting to see. I think that would be an amazing thing to have, especially if it's accessible and affordable for a lot of people. I think that would make such a difference because most people would like maybe a robot over a person that they don't necessarily know because the robot's tailored to you. So it's like your perfect person, I'm
the,
sure,
the
to take
chat
care of you.
GPT robot that's like, that was a great question. That was a wonderful idea.
Yeah. That'll be weird,
The
but
program.
I hope we see it.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, right? Because if we're running the numbers, right, and we're saying, okay, give or take, if for 12-hour care would be like 120, right? And then
Yeah.
if you needed the sundowning,
Hmm.
that literally be like double,
Right. Yeah.
pretty much, right?
Yeah.
So you're talking about like close to $250,000 a year
Annually. Yeah.
annually. The two things about it is I think that this would pose as an interesting topic, like in our group to discuss about how if somebody's wishes were to age in the home, are they planning for that? Because technically you could, you could put
Yeah.
that into your financial plan that, hey, on average, to have full-time care is about 250,000. How are you, putting that into your allocation, to make that comprehensive estate plan? If that truly is your wishes, knowing the costs, knowing the options, or do you want to pay, XYZ for, assisted living or, memory care,
Right.
is there any point in memory care though that it goes beyond being able to stay at home?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's mainly if I think the kitchen is a big thing. Like we hear a lot of them leaving on the stove. And they're, what are you going to do? Take the stove out of your parents' house? I guess you could. Or they're lifting things that are too heavy. You hear them,
What
like I said,
about
for,
them like getting aggressive, or what if
yeah,
it just gets,
yeah, but I mean, they're triggered by certain things. So if they're home alone, they probably won't necessarily be triggered, but if there is somebody there, or sometimes too, which is really sad, it's they get triggered by the person that's taking care of them, which
uh-huh.
sometimes is a daughter or a son. And at that point, they're like, okay, I don't know what I can do. I need somebody else to help me. So in that time, they usually put them into memory care. But once you're at that level, it's better to me, just from what I've seen, I would rather just have my mom at home, even if she's going to get upset and combative, as long as she's not a danger to herself or to me. Then I'd rather her stay home, because once it's gotten to that point, going into a memory care then is like, what the heck happened? I go into memory cares a lot, and we do activities there, and they still think that they're in the state that they moved from. They don't know they're in Florida. They don't know. They always think, oh, my daughter's coming today. And sometimes the daughter is not stopping by that day. It's just they don't have, if they move in there a little bit earlier, then it's different. They know where they are. They already have established themselves in that community. But when you move them there, once the cognitive has gone beyond that, they have no clue where they are. They have no clue who their kids are. They no longer remember. It's a really sad, sad
Mhm.
process. But sometimes it's unavoidable, you just have to make the best decision for them.
Mhm. You're
Yeah.
literally an angel, Annette.
Oh,
I think
thank you.
you're so sweet.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard seeing them, but you give them that little slice of happiness. So we do like a lot of ice cream socials. You would not believe how much they love soda, ice cream, which I'm right there with them. Once I'm at that age, I'll be like, give me all the good stuff. Like, please, pasta every
Yeah, you're
day.
not worried about anything anymore.
Yes.
You're like,
And
I'm
sometimes
getting
we'll
in my
go.
bikini this summer, so bring
Yes.
it on.
And sometimes we'll go and they have like happy hour, which is at 3 o'clock. And so
Oh
they'll
my
have they'll
gosh.
have their wine and they always want another glass. And I always refill. I'm like, yeah, girl. 'Cause they're not going anywhere. They're not operating a vehicle. They're going to their room to go to bed at like 6.
Oh my
I
gosh.
know. Yeah. I just feel like at the end of your life, like it's nice to have someone there that's just happy and has that good energy. Then they're happy. They feel good. It's just adding, that little different thing every day for them, that they feel loved still. They feel like it reminds them of when they're younger. Just little things like that. And I think that makes such a difference. And I hope, if I'm not available to take care of my parents, I hope someone like me is there in the assisted living, just giving them that little slice of something that they're missing, or just a conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so beautiful, to think about, all of us at our age, we're not really thinking about those things,
Yeah.
and it's just it's I think that, along with our group's effort as far as like really bringing these more to awareness, even myself as I've been on this own journey of learning about all these things, now I'm, more open to having those conversations with my mom and with my family, with my friends, and I
Yeah.
think that all of us in this space are truly advocates, into helping people to start thinking about it, start planning, whether it's the long-term care or working with your financial advisor on what you wish and what your, wishes are, I posted in the group this week, there was a video that was produced and it said the dues of dying,
Mm,
and I think that it's just like death and dying, it's just been so taboo for so
yeah.
long. And it's still taboo, mostly for, even as of today. But, being aligned like in our group where we can all like have like education, conversations about it and just individually advocating in our own communities, I think is really what needs to happen. And that's how we're going to age better and we're not going to be in crisis and we're going to get to choose how we, pass away. I mean, it's crazy to think that. I know nobody wants to think about it. I mean, who wants to think about it at the end of the day? Who wants to think about it,
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, too, it's like 100% gonna happen.
Yeah. It's
Like,
inevitable.
it's
Absolutely.
inevitable, and we should, I don't want to be in a situation for myself, like I think most people, they don't want to be a burden. You don't want to be, with insufficient abilities, right? Because what about people that, I'm sure it happens a lot, or you probably see it, that they didn't plan and they don't have the resources and they can't pay for the care to get your services, and they end up in maybe state hospitals and I don't
Yeah.
know, but
Yeah.
again, it's with, what the work that you're doing, speaking with people, being passionate. Everybody in our group, I swear, is like some form of an angel, because we care for people that are in a really bad situation. Most of our
Yeah.
customers that we work with, somebody just passed away, they're in grief, they're, and it could be that people get taken advantage, in that
Yeah.
circumstance. Elderly gets tons of scams,
Yeah.
so having people that are working in the light and that love, like you could just hear it in your voice, that you enjoy spending time with them, it makes a huge difference, a huge difference. So
I agree. Yeah.
thank you, Annette. You're amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you for having me.
sharing your industry. And I know this is going to help a lot of people, a lot of professionals. And we'll put all of your information below so people can connect with you. And amazing. So thank you so much. And I guess
Thank
it's a
you.
wrap. All right.
Okay, sounds good. I'll see
All
you
right.
soon.
All right. Thank you, Annette. Bye.
Bye.